Republicans may have held on to their substantial majorities in the state legislature, but Democrats had a big night in Tuesday's statewide contest. In addition to Tony Evers' win in the race for governor, Tammy Baldwin easily won re-election to the U.S. Senate. Democrats were also elected to state treasurer, secretary of state, and attorney general. In the AG's contests, Madison attorney and former federal prosecutor Josh Kaul defeated the Republican incumbent Brad Schimel. And Josh Kaul joins us now on Up Front. Welcome back to the program.
It's good to be back, Mike.
So I think you had about a 22,000 point vote margin here. You're confident that will stand up in the canvass?
I am. It was a close election, but I think the results are very clear, and we're confident that we've won this election, and I'm looking forward to serving as Wisconsin's next Attorney General.
So one of your first jobs, I would assume, is to build relationships with the law enforcement community, many of whom were supporting your opponent in this race. How are you going to go about that?
One thing I want to do is build on the relationships that are in place between the AG's office and law enforcement officials around the state. I think there are a lot of areas where it's really important that we're working very closely together. One of them is in ensuring that our enforcement efforts in responding to the opioid epidemic are targeting large-scale traffickers. I think it's critical that our AG's office works closely with local law enforcement, with county law enforcement, and with federal law enforcement to make sure that we're working, we're working to dismantle drug trafficking conspiracies and to try to slow the supply of the most dangerous drugs like heroin and fentanyl and meth into the state of Wisconsin.
During the campaign, you also talked in relation to the opioid crisis about possibly going after the big pharmaceutical companies, the suppliers of some of these drugs. How soon will you make a determination on what kind of action you might take in that?
So the first thing I'm going to do is look and see where the multi-state investigation stands. Wisconsin is part of a multi-state investigation into the pharmaceutical companies' role in the opioid epidemic, and I want to see if that investigation is moving along as quickly as it should be and what kind of progress they're making. If a lot of progress is being made, then I think it makes sense to continue with that course, but if it's not, then I think the state of Wisconsin should be looking at bringing its own lawsuit, taking a hard look at what type of claims could be brought and whether claims should in fact be brought.
You also talked a lot about rape test kits during this campaign and the testing that's gone on there. What are you going to be doing specifically? You were critical of how it's been handled up to this point. What are you going to be doing specifically to change that?
I think there are two things. One is we still have not had a single conviction resulting from the testing of the kits in the backlog, and only 3 people have been charged with a crime. So number one is making sure that where there are DNA matches from the testing of the kits in the backlog, that we're fully and thoroughly investigating those matches so that we get justice for survivors in those cases. But then I also want to take action in my first 100 days in office, and I hope to work with the legislature on legislation that will do as much as we can to prevent there from ever being a backlog from happening again. And that's going to include language that clarifies when rape kits should be submitted. But I also think DOJ needs to do more when it comes to making sure that there's clear guidance provided to law enforcement about when kits should be submitted currently, and that there's training that makes sure that people understand when they should be submitting the kits.
The Affordable Care Act, the state of Wisconsin has been challenging that. The former or current Attorney General, soon to be former Attorney General Brad Schimel, said that he believes the law as it's currently configured is unconstitutional. You said during the campaign you want to take us out of that lawsuit. How will you go about that?
So Governor Evers has made clear, Governor-elect Evers has made clear that he wants to withdraw from that lawsuit, and I look forward to working with him as Attorney General to do that. I think in terms of how the process works, the AG's office would submit something to the court requesting to withdraw from that lawsuit, and hopefully that the court would grant that request.
Some of the things you talked about in the campaign, I'm wondering if they can be delivered on. You mentioned common sense gun measures. But isn't that really the role of the legislature? It's not really the role of the Attorney General. You could be on the bully pulpit and make the case for that, but you can't really do that in terms of legislation.
So I look forward to working with members of the legislature to enact legislation, not only in that respect, but with respect to our opioid epidemic and some other issues that I think are going to improve public safety in Wisconsin. I'm hopeful that we'll be able to work cooperatively and across the aisle to pass legislation that's going to make our communities safer and stronger, and I look forward to working with members of the Republican legislature on that. There's broad support for universal background checks and for a ban on bump stocks, and I think passing a red flag law would also make our communities safer. And I'm hopeful that when I sit down and talk to members of the legislature, we'll be able to figure out a way to move forward on some of those issues.
So you intend to advocate for that?
I do.
Yeah. You've said you'll be an independent attorney general, but I have to ask you, there are Democratic attorney generals around the country who are seen by many to be sort of there in part to push back against Trump administration policies. Do you see yourself in any way being that kind of attorney general, pushing back against Trump administration policies?
I think if there are federal policies that are harmful to Wisconsinites and that are either unconstitutional or illegal, I think the AG absolutely should stand up for the best interests of Wisconsinites and stand up to protect our rights. But I also don't think it should be something that's done reflexively. I think we need to look at each individual policy and make a decision based on what's in the interest of Wisconsinites. And I think the AG should be independent and a watchdog and speak out when there are, whether it's at the federal level or the state level, there are issues that are of concern.
My final question is a personal one. You lost your mom during this campaign. Peggy Lautenschlager was the former Attorney General. What do you think she would say about what's happened with you and your quest for the same office?
You know, my mom was able to spend her career doing what she thought was in the best interests of the people of Wisconsin. And I know that being in public service meant the world to her, and being able to make a difference in her community and the state meant the world to her. And I know it also meant a lot to her that I was able to spend part of my career as a federal prosecutor, and I'm sure it would mean a lot, and that she's looking down at us, and it means a lot to her that I'm going to have a chance to go to work to do what I think is going to move the state of Wisconsin forward and make our communities stronger. Josh
Kaul is the Attorney General-elect of the state of Wisconsin. Thanks very much for being on the program today.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Coming up next on Upfront, Tuesday's vote by the numbers, and one number that blew us away.